Hello friends, welcome to iQUANTA, and here is the video solution for CAT Level RC Set 8. So the Facebook members have already attempted the passage, so they can simply skip to the solution part, and those of you who have not read it yet, you can pause the screen and read it now, and then you have to pause the screen here again and read the passage. And now we can jump to the questions. So this is the first question from the passage, that many of the concepts of modern art have been product of. So you must have realized that the passage was somewhat difficult in comprehending because of the subject matter, because of the intricacy of the subject matter. It is basically comparing science and art and how these two different branches function. Science is more organized and there is a pattern, recognizable pattern, and the structure is it is more structured, and you start from the bigger umbrella and then underneath it you get the various different branches, and these branches stem from one another, and there is a pattern, there is a sequence of evolution. But when you talk about artistic development or the development of different art forms and fields, you might not notice any kind of pattern or sequence. It can be more random as compared to science, and that is the comparison which has been made in the passage. And overall it was a little bit difficult in comprehending because of the language that has been used and because of the structure of the sentences. And most of the times when passages are tricky to read, questions are very direct and easy, and this is an example of that only. So this question is very direct and very easy. It says that many of the concepts of modern art have been the product of, and for that you can simply go to the passage, and if you read this sentence, that here you will see that many of the concepts of modern art, by contrast, unlike science, so it's like science doesn't do this but art will do this, concepts of modern art have resulted from the almost accidental meetings of groups of talented individuals at certain times and certain places. So that is how these modern arts originate, because of the accidental meeting of group of talented individuals. So it's very direct, nothing to explain about this. You just, those who have read the passage carefully, they will just remember this, and even if you have not read the passage very carefully, after reading this question you can go back to the passage and see where this idea has been discussed, and you will find the answer. So this is the answer, that accidental interaction among people blessed with creative muse. Now it's not important to discuss other choices here because the question was very direct and the answer was explicitly written in the passage. Now let's discuss question number 2. It says that in the passage the word fossil can be interpreted as. So you have to interpret the use of this word fossil. That means the question is about inference. You have to infer the meaning for which this word has been used, and you will find this word here. So let's read this sentence. As an art movement slips into temporal perspective, it ceases to be a living organism, becoming rather a fossil, and it becomes a fossil. But because you need to understand the context, you don't have to take this literally. If you take this literally, some of you might be tempted to go with this answer, where it talks about the barrenness of the artistic creation in the past. So you will associate this idea of fossil with the barrenness of artistic creation. So this is, if you go with this choice, that means you have taken that word literally, but you don't have to do that. You need to understand the context in which this has been discussed. So you need to read further. This is not to say that it becomes useless or uninteresting. So it becomes fossil, but that does not mean that it has become useless or uninteresting. If you call it useless or uninteresting, only then you can go with the barrenness of the ideas or artistic creativity. But that does not mean this. The passage clearly says this, that does not mean that it has become useless or uninteresting. No, It's not like that. Just as a scientist can reconstruct the life of a prehistoric environment from the message codified into the structure of a fossil, so can an artist decipher whole webs of intellectual and creative possibility from the recorded structure of a dead art movement. So, the art movement is almost dead now, but still if you study this deeply, just like the scientists study fossils to know the history, development and evolution and other aspects of that particular object or thing, in the very same way artists too can study this branch of art or this piece of art just to understand the process through which it must have gone. So, after this understanding, you can clearly say that the fossil has not been used to call these artistic creations to be to indicate towards the barrenness of these artistic creations. This is not the answer. This is not why that word fossil was used. So, why was it used? So, it was an analogy from the physical world, because temporal word was used there. So, temporal refers to the mundane world and also it is associated with the time. So, an analogy from the physical world to indicate the passing of an era associated with an art movement. So, with the passing of era, what happens to that art movement? It becomes old, it becomes dead. So, this art movement becomes old, it becomes dead. Still, it could be a matter of study for the artists belonging to the same field. So, it was just an analogy, and the comparison has also been made that what is the importance of fossils for scientists. In the very same way, these art forms have the similar importance in the artists for the artists of that field. So, 4 is the answer, not 2. And then A says that it is an analogy from the physical world to indicate a historic art movement. So, not historic art movement, so this is incomplete, but the passing of an era is very important because of the use of the word temporal. This word was used there. And 3 says that an embedded codification of prehistoric life. So, again this was not a codification, this is not a good choice as compared to the other available choices. So, 4 is the best one. Question number 3, it says that in the passage, which of the following similarities between science and art may lead to erroneous conclusions? So, the question says that which of the following comparisons or similarities between science and art are not true. So, 3 of these similarities are okay, 3 of these comparisons can be made except for 1. So, this is actually true according to the passage, that both have movements not necessarily connected with innovation. This thing was written somewhere in the passage that it is not important, somewhere there is accidental. So, see, these talented people meet and they discuss the ideas and they come up with something new, and that could be accidental. So, the purpose was not already to come up with an invention, and the same thing happens in the field of science, that you were conducting some other kind of research and you came up with some other innovative idea. So, that was accidental, it was not purposeful. So, yes, these are the similarities. And then 3 says that both depend on collaborations between talented individuals. Clearly, it was written about science and art, as you just read in the previous sentence, previous question I showed you the sentence. And both involve abstract thought and dissemination of ideas. Yes, it is also true that science as well as art disseminate from abstract thoughts. The idea is just random and something new comes up and it is wonderful. So, it happens in science as well as in the field of art. 1 is the answer, this is not true, this is not a good comparison, and that is why this is the answer. This similarity is not true. You can go back to the first sentence of the passage and read this part, that a remarkable aspect of art of the present century is the range of concepts and ideologies which it embodies. It is almost tempting to see a pattern emerging within the art field, similar to that which exists under the umbrella of science, similar to which exists under the umbrella of science, where the general term covers a whole range of separate though interconnecting activities. So, here a comparison between the development of science and art has been made in this first sentence. You need to understand this entire part, that how this modern day art develops and how this science develops. So, similar to that which exists, so something else is similar to that which exists under the umbrella of science where, so under the umbrella of science this happens, the general term covers a whole range of separate though interconnecting activities. So, this happens only in case of science, this does not happen in case of art. Tempting, it is almost, and read this part, that it is almost tempting to see a pattern emerging within the art field. So, it is tempting, look at this, understand this thing, that it is tempting to see a pattern emerging within the art field similar to that which exists under this umbrella of science where this happens. So, this thing is tempting, but this is not necessarily true, plus this thing where a general term covers whole range of separate though interconnected activities is how the science work. Only in the field of science you will have this general term like umbrella, and that will cover many other separate though interconnecting activities, but this does not happen in the field of science, field of art. In the field of art, ideas are not necessarily interconnected, they could be random and there would not be any order or pattern. So, we cannot say this thing when we compare or when we talk about similarities between science and art. We cannot say that both, we can say this only for science, but not for art. So, both in general include a gamut is like range. So, range of distinct but interconnecting activities. This is true only for science, not for art. So, this is an erroneous conclusion. 1 is the answer. Question number 4, it says that the passage uses an observation by T.S. Eliot to imply which of these? So, let us see where T.S. Eliot has been mentioned. So, you will find T.S. Eliot here on this slide. So, just read this part and you will understand what T.S. Eliot is trying to say. He was a writer of the maybe 20th century. So, as T.S. Eliot observed, no one starts anything from scratch. So, you think that you are going to start it from the scratch, but actually no. All your observations and knowledge from the past will help you. We will just come there with you, and you will be doing all those things with the past knowledge and experience. So, you are not starting from the scratch. However, consciously you may try to live in the present. So, however consciously you may try to live in the present, you are still involved with the nexus of behavior patterns bequeathed from the past, brought from the past. The original and creative person is not someone who ignores these patterns, but someone who is able to translate and develop them so that they can conform more exactly to his and our present needs. So, you cannot deny everything from the past, you will have to include those past experiences and knowledge in whatever you are going to create. And however consciously you may try to live only in the present and not be influenced by the past, but that is not possible. So, this is what T.S. Eliot is saying. And now, jump to the question. So, passage uses an observation by T.S. Eliot to imply what? So, what is the author trying to imply? So, is he trying to imply this, that creative processes are not original because they always borrow from the past? Some of you might have gone with this, but this is not the correct answer, because the T.S. Eliot has not said that these ideas will not be original. He has not claimed this, that these ideas will not be original because they are influenced by the past experiences and knowledge. Still they can be original. It is just that there will be a tinge of past in whatever you do. So, but still you can call it original. This is very strong, this is very harsh, and Eliot has not claimed this. 2 says that we always carry forward the legacy of the past. So, again it could be true, but then see, it was not only about the legacy, it was about art being influenced by the past. So, that is in that context this example was, this observation was mentioned. So, this is again not true, because it does not capture the concept context, sorry. Plus it also uses this word always, which could be somewhat problematic, though not in this case. This word is not very problematic in this case, because somehow T.S. Eliot was saying that it is always influenced. So, in this case you can see that he has no one starts anything from scratch, however consciously you may try to live in the present. So, somewhere and somehow the indication was towards always, but still the author or the T.S. Eliot have not used the word always. So, you should also refrain from using words like always, it could be problematic somewhat. And 3 says that past behaviors and thought processes recreate themselves in the present and get labeled as original or creative. Again, this misses out on the exact context, and it is not again drawing any kind of comparison between past and present, and again it is like you just copy something and label it as original. So, this idea of originality was not discussed in this context, that you just copy something and you call it original. It was about drawing inspiration. So, if we compare 3 with 4, you will find that in 4 the wording is better than 3. 3 looks very harsh and strong, but 4 says the same thing in a better way, that innovations and original thinking interpret and develop on past thoughts to suit contemporary needs. So, that this is a better representation of the idea that T.S. Eliot was trying to convey. Here you are calling it that it is actually a copy, but you are labeling it as original and creative, which is not true. And this thought is being represented in a much better way in this option, and that is why 4 is the answer, where it says that you draw inspiration from the past. These innovations and original thinking interpret and developed on past thoughts just to suit the contemporary needs and demands of the art field or whatever field. So, 4 is the answer. So, that is it for now. We will see you with the next set. Thank you.